All right, let's get started. So hi, I'm Nicky. I work here. I'm a software engineer at Thoughtful. My background is very backend heavy and it's very Python-y heavy. So just to like do the buzzwords, Go, Java, deploy with Docker, Kubernetes a whole ton. And here at Thoughtful in particular, I do a whole lot of Python, pure Python development package for telemetry data about the digital workers that Dan talked about. And then also the app that Nick works on has both a front end and a back end that's in serverless TypeScript. So I mostly focus on our AWS and TypeScript stuff. You'll notice there's not a whole lot of React on this slide. And that's actually the point of my talk, is the whole point of mine is I wanted to learn React, and I wanted to learn what's the fastest way to onboard someone to get from literally zero to I have a web app deployed in like a production AWS instance. So one of the frameworks that is built on top of React is called Next.js. That's the one that we actually use here at Thoughtful for our customer-facing app. And so my first step was to look through what they said to do. And the workflow that Next.js actually recommends is a thing called develop, preview, ship. And a lot of this you'll already be familiar with. They just sort of formalized it in like a cool 3-word phrase. But develop means, you build it, you do npm run dev, you do the Chrome tools that Nick talked about, build it locally, keep going, keep iterating until it's good. Once you're good, you make a PR. And then you have some sort of preview branch, right? Like you either view it, someone else looks at it, they pull it down, they look at it, something like that. And then the last step is ship. So once the PR is approved, you merge it into main, it gets deployed to production, and voila, customers can see it. There's a lot of advantages to a system like this. The main one is that you can iterate very, very quickly. And there's also a progression, right? Like similar to you have dev, stage, prod, you have local, preview, production. Same idea. Next. So here at Thoughtful, we're all about automation. That's kind of our whole shtick. And I took a page out of one of my favorite books to automate the boring stuff, right? Like shipping and the preview part are all very easily automated. So my goal was I wanted to take this demo app, right? Just a simple blog that's using Next.js, and I wanted to write CI/CD to send it to production. So that way I never had to worry about it again, right? I can just use the straight out of the box GitHub features and everything just works. Diving a little bit more into what that looks like, there are 2 flows. One is when you do a PR, and one is when you merge into main. So to make a PR, I want AWS to just have an instance. I want to be able to preview what my build would look like as an app somewhere. And then when I merge into main, I want to have the main app in production just automatically updated by AWS. And the tool that I'm going to use for both of these is an AWS product called Amplify. So a good question to ask next is, well, what the heck is Amplify? Why do I care about that? And Amplify, more or less, is a build and deploy tool for full stack applications. In this case, we're going to be doing front end app, but in general, you can do full stack apps. It is really nice because it can monitor GitHub changes, so that way it'll know if I make a PR, it'll know if I merge into main, it'll know if I even make a new branch and commit, and it automatically scales through serverless technologies, right? So like it knows it's a full stack app, it'll just use S3 and Lambda, etc., CloudFront, etc., to just build all that for me. I didn't have to touch any of that for this stuff with Amplify. And then one other really nice thing about it is that you can easily access domain configurations, and you don't have to muck around with like all the Route 53 configs. It'll just work out otherwise. So let's actually create the Amplify app. First, we'll go to the Amplify console. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. First, I should show you the code, which is I just made a repo here on GitHub. It's called 0 to Hero React Demo. It just has the code for the website that I showed you a picture of earlier. So here we're going to go to Amplify. And this screen is very large right now, so this will be fun. Amplify. There we go. So we're going to go here. I'm just going to click Create New App. Then we're going to host a new app. Because building is if you're developing it through Amplify. It's a feature they have, but not in the scope of this. We're going to use GitHub. I'm going to zoom out a bit because it looks like this is just way too big. We're going to click Continue. Because my app was hosted on GitHub, that's where the code is. It's going to sit here for a second. There we go. And then it's going to tell me that I already selected the repo, right? Because I'm using the same repo as earlier. But in general, you just tell it, hey, go to GitHub and pick this out. And then I'm going to select the main branch, right? So this is just telling Amplify, here's my repo, deploy this one, and here's the main branch. So you click next. Amplify has a ton of build settings. You can change them in YAML, right? You can change how it's built. You can give it the image you want to build in. You can do like post and pre-deploy scripts. We're not going to mess with any of that. We're just going to do it out of the box, but it's a really cool feature that Amplify has. And then you can see your preview, and you click Save and Deploy. And once it's done, it's going to think about it for a while. There we go. So that's it. That's how you deploy. It is literally that simple. This is going to take a while to build, so we're going to keep moving, but that is in general what it looks like. 1 second. Cool. Okay, so next we're going to actually add some previews, right? So you go to the previews page over here. You just click Enable Previews. You install GitHub app. Authorize. To confirm password. Oh man. There we go. Cool. So now that I've connected GitHub, I just say, hey, any PR that is made against main, I want you to enable preview builds. And just in a second, I'll show you what the preview builds look like. And then you click confirm. So there you go. That is all the settings. If that seems really easy, you're right. I didn't think it would be this easy, and I think it's really cool that we can just deploy straight to production and also do preview builds with this. So I'm going to show you actually what a preview build looks like by moving this code over here. Yeah. So I have a little preview right here where we don't need to really get into the details about the change, but I added a link to one of the blog posts, right? So next I'm going to push that. And then I'm going to go check the branch in GitHub. And then now that I've made the change, I just changed it in the blog post. I'm just going to create a pull request. And then almost instantaneously, it's going to add the Amplify page. Maybe some think about it. There we go. Yep. So Amplify immediately picked up that, hey, there's a new PR, so it's going to be doing a build here. The build takes a little bit of time, so I'm going to actually show you what a actual build looks like once it's done. So we go up to pull request. So this is just an existing one that I've already done, where I add a little hello React. And so once it's done, Amplify gives you a little comment, and it says, here's the link to the preview. And there you go. And it says hello React Chicago. So this is the line that I added in this PR. So we're going to preview. And then once you merge it in main, it'll show up again there too. So same idea. So Amplify is very cool. We use it here. There are some downsides I want to go through really quick, just because I think it's important to know about before you start using this tool. First is that the developers of Next.js actually also develop a deploy system called Vercel. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, so if I sound wrong, sorry. But they develop both of them, right? So like Next.js is very highly optimized for that. And there's some differences with how Amplify works, in particular with its CDN CloudFront, that makes it harder for Amplify to build everything very fast. So the difference really is like Amplify takes about 8 to 10 minutes to build, and Vercel takes about 4 to 5 minutes. It's not a huge difference, right? Like if you're waiting 5 minutes, like what's the difference between that and 8 minutes? But if your app is like very, very big and it takes even longer, there is like a 2x build time that you have to deal with. There's also, if you go look at the Amplify GitHub page, there's just so many GitHub issues where they're like, I have access to 9 errors off the wazoo, right? So we did the really happy path. We had no permission errors. I just need to go add a rule really quick. But it is something to be aware of, is that if you're doing something really complicated, this sort of thing could be very hard to keep up. Also, sometimes if you merge APR, it will not fully delete all the resources in AWS that the preview build used. So you may have some like dead resources out there that could cost you money. And then one other thing is that if you go pretty much anywhere on Stack Overflow or GitHub where someone's talking about Amplify, someone will be complaining that they haven't updated it to support Next.js version 12 yet. It's coming soon to you. So that's the last grain of salt, is that I don't really know when they're going to update it, but a lot of people have issues with that. So then, now that we've done all this stuff and we have a working app, what are the next steps? I could add logging via CloudWatch. Let's say I add a REST API on the back end, right? I make it a full stack app instead of just a front end app. We would want to add in logging via like AWS CloudWatch so we can see those. Custom 404 and 500 pages, and then also check the performance and accessibility with something like Lighthouse, right? Like these are like the basic things that you would do for any app, but I just wanted to show you that really the next steps are adding features, right? Because I've already handled all the build and deploy. If I want to add custom 404, then I can preview that by going to that build itself. And then once it's merged, it'll do the same thing. So yeah, that's Next.js and Amplify. Are there any questions? What's up?
You were talking about the differences between the different bundlers. Is Amplify specific to Next.js, or if you have other React applications?
Yeah, so the question was, is Amplify specific for Next.js? The answer is no, Amplify can do, I don't know the full list, but I know it can do a lot of different previews. I think it can even support like Flask and Django, but don't quote me on that. But Amplify is like a generic AWS tool, and it has a lot of nice out-of-the-box features to support Next.js without much other trouble. But it can do other React apps, it can do, I swear it can do Python stuff too. So it's very much a multi-purpose tool. Yeah, what's up? No, so when we did all of that setup, Amplify just went and added like an Amplify folder or file of some sort. Basically, like if you've ever used GitHub Actions, Amplify added something like that for it, but that's all the steps we had to do. We didn't have to do anything else. If we wanted to customize it, we could have changed that YAML that I showed briefly with the build settings. But no, there was nothing else downstream I had to change. Unless you count like Route 53 custom domain stuff, but that's about it. Anything else?
Yeah, if you know, you got to add this.
I didn't have to add anything, no. I think Amplify adds something and like it just commits it for you at the very beginning, I think. But I didn't have to add anything. That was all the steps we had to take.
Can you use Amplify on AWS only, or can you use it for
Yeah.
cloud?
Yeah, so the question was, can you use Amplify outside of just AWS deploys? I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure just because Amplify is like an AWS tool. I would be really surprised if out of the box you can have it work with like GCP or the Azure versions of stuff, but it's possible. I'm not really sure.
What's up? Say no.
Tom says no.
So like Firebase, this is kind of like AWS's answer when Bill bought an integrated Firebase, which is a similar solution in deploying both like the front end and back end web application.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure GCP and Azure both have similar versions of Amplify. Like it's kind of like when you have like Mongo versus DynamoDB versus what's Azure's CosmoDB, right? Like they all each have the document-based object store. Amplify is Amazon's version of deploying stuff. So.
Or you like Jenkins.
Yeah, you could run your own Jenkins. Yeah, that is a solution. So, all right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.